The establishment got their heads handed to it. But there are some real particular things going on, which we can get into, which is what the White House is doing, the Democratic races are not doing, which is, I think, much more Machiavellian than anybody thinks. And I think the Republican establishment, whether or not they're going to face up to the fact that their effort to keep shoving candidates down Republican electorate's throats that they don't want is not working very well unless they can structure a race themselves to make it work.
They put $1 million into John Murtha's seat. Do you think they're very unhappy and crestfallen today when they
should be
the Democrat
to some
won?
extent? That's a tough seat. Remember, it was a primary election when the real statewide, where the only real election was in doubt, was the Senate race on the Democratic side. I happened to look last night at the election results, and remember there was a primary going on in both races. Both the Democrat Crits and Burns were both in other primaries for November, to run in November, for the November election. This was a special. Mark Crist got 57,000 votes in the Democratic primary, in the special, the whole special for the next few months. He got 70,000. The Republican Burns only got, because very few Republicans are in that district, by the way, he got 26,000 votes, but he ended up getting like 60. So it was a big increase. But here's the problem. Republicans oversold the seat to begin with. The Republicans are incompetent at handling single elections at the operational level of Democrats. They get outflanked all the time. Chris managed to end up running to the right.
Right. I mean, what kind of a Democrat in Pennsylvania that once worked for John Murtha says he's pro-life, pro-gun, and against health care?
Yeah,
that's not a Democrat.
No, yeah, exactly. But the party didn't care. They want to win the seat. You have to understand they are much more, I mean, I'm sure this will offend some sensibilities. Hey, to them, this is an election we need to see. By the way, I guarantee you, Mark Crist, between now and November, you will think he is the most anti-Nancy Pelosi Democrat in the House. And were he to be reelected and were she to be Speaker, which I think is problematical, he would be John Murtha all over again. I just have to tell you, the incompetence of campaign, these negative spots that everybody does, that people tune out because they just hammer people. If you think of the imagination that people with humor could do to someone like Chris, we don't have. I worked in Hollywood when I left politics, and from West Wing and movies and Air Force One and Line of Fire and other things like that. Look, there are so many creative people who think differently about presentation. Many of them are, I know a number of conservatives. The Republican establishment and the consultant world, these people who continue to sink the Republican Party, first of all, they all have the inside track. Everything is a deal. They work for the committees. They're the people who get hired. So I'm just saying the lack of imagination, number one. And number two, Republicans oversold the seat, which they always do. And the third is that, I'm sorry, I was very tough last night, and I've been saying this. I think my reaction to watching the Republicans in Congress, it's like Casey Stengel said about the 62 Mets. Can't anybody here play this game? The Republican enthusiasm in this country for voting is declining, just as it did in Britain. Because Republicans in the Congress, for instance, the Senate particularly, don't know their right hand from
Toomey versus Sestak.
Toomey's a very close race. Toomey is more conservative than Pennsylvania. Sestak is somewhat more liberal than Pennsylvania. I think it's a question of tide right now. It'll be a very swing state. Look, if Ridge had been running, it gets a little common. If Ridge had run, that seat wouldn't even be in play. Toomey's never been that strong a candidate, but he's got a strong year behind him. Sestak is a pretty good candidate, and he's for a Democrat. Specter would have been gone in the general. That was the given. That's why the White House cut him loose and threw him under the bus at the end.
How bad was that?
Nobody in the media, let me say this, the political media is outrageous in its lack of coverage of what's really going on.
What do you mean?
Well,
for example, the president not going out and helping out our own inspector?
Understand this. The president, this isn't Massachusetts general election even. This isn't Virginia, New Jersey. This is a Democratic likely voter small turnout primary where 80% in the Rasmussen poll of likely Democrats have approved of Obama's policies. and approve of Obama. He's very popular. You don't think he could go in, and particularly in the African-American vote in Philadelphia and so forth, if he'd gone all out there for 4 points? He got Specter to save him. But listen, have no feelings for Specter. This is a man who never had to have, if he had not screwed around with the stimulus in the spring, Toomey had planned to run for governor. He wants to be governor of Pennsylvania. The conservatives in the country got mad at Specter. Toomey switches races. That's when Specter moves. Specter makes a suicidal pact with the White House. Look, they throw everybody. They threw Goldman Sachs, their biggest campaign contributor, under the bus. And Reverend Wright wrote his letter the other day. That's right. He said he was under the bus. They throw Blanche Lincoln under the bus. There are things going that really ought to be dealt with politically, but no one writes about them because, like Politico yesterday, was just outrageous in its explanation of his he doesn't want to go and lose stuff. They made a decision to stay out to let Sestak win, and and Specter. Leave aside what anyone feels about the man who believes that, as I said, the Marshall Pétain theory of American politics. I offer my person to the nation here, but that he had gave them the votes they needed. They promised to be with him all the way. Rendell, Labor was with him, and then the president threw him under the bus. You can really move. He could have moved that race if he wanted to. He didn't want to.
Do you not see general anti-establishment
trends? Oh, absolutely. I thought I said that in the beginning, because if I didn't, I guess I'd live with it. It's like, yes, there is a general anti-establishment. It is. Rand Paul most people would have said was a nutcase. I don't think so. I mean, he's a very serious guy. But they would have said he's on the fringe of politics. He slaughtered the candidate of Mitch McConnell, the entire Republican establishment, the man who had the most money, and who last week in a debate Mr. Grayson said the earmarks were good, and that showed up what a representative did for their state and how effective they were.
Good move
on a debate. I mean, this is unbelievable. And by the way, the Democrats think they're going to take Kentucky. They're wrong. Barring some disaster, I think Rand Paul, you saw last night, running on his convictions and principles in a state like Kentucky this year. I got to find my friend Mr. Beck, my friend Bob Beckel, because he thinks that the Democrat wins that. I'm willing to put all the money in the world up. I think Paul's going to win that race.
Now I want to bring you to Blumenthal. Tell me how big a deal it is that he lied about his Vietnam service, that he actually was in the war when he forgot he wasn't in the war.
It's everybody. Life is a business, and we all do in one way or another either exaggerate or imagine things. But when you're in office. And you went to Vietnam. I mean, first of all, you have to understand, I lived in that generation. That's my generation. You did not go a day without wondering whether you were going to end up in Vietnam.
Right.
He got 5 deferments, which there's nothing wrong with.
Correct. What's wrong is incorrectly recalling whether or not you were there.
He went in the Marines. There was nothing wrong with what he did. He went in the Marine Reserve finally and stayed out. A lot of Republicans did. But then to get up and make those statements, you're not telling the truth. You know what you're doing. And it is, the one that actually bothers me personally the worst since I went to Harvard is his being the captain of the Harvard swim team. And his comment yesterday, I didn't say it, and yet people write that what am I supposed to do? Correct it? But here's the thing for him. There's more there. If they found this is the problem of life in the internet age.
Oh, this is the tip of the iceberg?
Somebody will find somewhere else where he did this, some other place he said it. It will be the drip, drip, drip.
Is he cooked politically? Is it just a matter of time?
I think he is. I think that...
Because they don't have a Torricelli rule in Connecticut. The Democrats have to get somebody else on the ballot by June 8th, otherwise they're stuck with Blumenthal.
Right, and they have a convention, and there's upset, but it's too late.
Prediction? Mrs. Pelosi is still the speaker a year from now?
No, I think. Let me just say this. If the Republicans assuming the Republicans will stop screwing themselves up in Washington, and then sometime we have to talk about this Senate. These people are beyond belief. She won't be speaker, but. But that depends. The people who can screw up a one-car funeral are the Republican Party. Believe me.
They make you think about what you thought you knew. Gilmeade and Napolitano.